recording it now.
You just like edit it again if you need to.
You can edit it, yeah.
Alright, okay, I'll start recording when we sit down. Right. Are you gonna do like an intro? Like,
Oh, that's it. Where'd you get that tape from? We'll just introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
Let me just double check eyes in it because it doesn't look like it. Just move your chest slightly that way.
Which way?
Just slightly the other way. Yeah, that's how.
Like that.
Should we try to put a football there?
Yeah. Have you got one?
That's in my car. Can't be arsed.
No, fuck it, yeah.
Football related down. Right. Let's just start recording. It's fine. Like, okay. But like I said, you can stay. Right. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name's Andre.
My name's Connell.
We're just two mates wanting to chat about football.
Welcome to, I suppose, Untitled.
Entitled. We'll think of a name if it gets big enough.
Exactly.
See what happens. So, Connell,
Yeah.
who do you support?
I am a Tottenham Hotspur fan.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
Your dad?
yeah, well, I suppose like most people, you know, my dad sort of influenced my allegiances, should we say? But you know, when I was a kid, like he took me, I had a season ticket with him at White Hart Lane for like 4 or 5 years, which obviously, you know, gave me the buzz for it. And then like as I got older and you sort of understand football, you sort of understand like football philosophy, I suppose. Like I'm quite grateful that I support Tottenham in terms of like, yeah, obviously like I know like we're a bit fucked at the moment, but like
You're a bit fucked, but I think you're a bit fucked now you've got higher standards.
yeah, exactly, and like I just mean in terms of like the footballing philosophy, you know, like generally obviously Mourinho, like aggressive, stylish football, and like
Under Poch.
just under everyone before Mourinho, pretty much. That's what we were known for back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose that's why I support Tottenham.
Yeah.
I remember my first game, I was like 7, I think, at home against Aston Villa.
Did you win?
Yeah, I think we won 5-1.
5-1?
Yeah, I think it was like 2004 or 5.
My first United game, I'm a United fan, was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's testimonial match.
No way.
Now he's a manager.
Full circle, mate.
Mad, isn't it?
That
Against
is
RCD Espanyol, we won 1-0. I think Danny Simpson scored the winner.
Was he the guy who played for Leicester when they won the league?
Not Danny Simpson.
He's the fullback, isn't he?
No. What's his name? No, Fraser Campbell. It was Fraser Campbell.
Fraser Campbell.
Fraser Campbell, not Danny
When was
Simpson.
this?
This was in like 2006.
Oh my
2007.
god. No way, he was well young.
It was a long time ago.
I remember him playing for fucking Spurs. When, how is it? When Daniel Levy tried to sort of sell him to us as I believe it might have been for like a Jermaine Defoe replacement or something.
Really? Yeah. Well, I mean, I think at the time he was just like, he made like a few first team appearances. Obviously,
Yeah.
testimonial matches are friendlies. They were all pre-season, so it was serious. But he'd have been like Welbeck when he first came in.
Exactly.
Or Greenwood, or Rashford, or
I was just about to say like
James Wilson. All these
failed
strikers.
failed wonder kids.
Yeah.
Who do you think is like when you say like failed wonder kids, who comes to mind?
Oh, I don't know. As a United fan, it's easy to say, all right, Dad.
Hello, Paolo, how are you?
Yeah, we're just recording now.
Yeah, he took about that over the top reaction to your team's
You
football.
come in.
Nothing wrong with it, I
Join.
reckon.
What
Yeah.
Right,
That was
cheers.
gone way over the top.
Do you want to?
ESL?
No, that's stupid.
Do you want to sit down for 5 minutes?
Yeah, I'm coming.
Alright. We'll hold it for 5 minutes. We'll just edit this out.
But in terms of like,
I've got mayo chicken.
are we carrying on with the failed wonder kids?
Yeah, we'll keep talking. Yeah, who cares?
In terms of like failed wonder kids.
Do you want to grab a chair? Because we've got it on camera as well.
It's a bit cold out there.
Grab a jumper, grab a chair, we'll move over. Failed wonder kids. Theo Walcott. 100%.
Wow.
Only because he was rated so high.
Yeah, I mean, he
Went
got
to the
taken
World Cup at 16.
over Jermaine Defoe, who was the top scorer in the league at the time, I think, when he was 16.
I know. And to be honest, at Walcott, he was a good player.
Yeah.
He was always a good player, but that was it.
Yeah, I mean,
That was it.
it wasn't like exceptional.
Did he ever like drag Arsenal to anything? Did he ever grab Arsenal by the scruff of the neck and take them anywhere?
No.
He might have won an FA Cup or two. That's it.
I think that's a fair pitch. I was going to go
What about
sort
you?
of down the road of like, you know, like John Bostock. I don't know if you remember him.
Who's he?
Played for Crystal Palace.
What sort
He was
of
playing in the Championship for Crystal Palace when he was 15, and like Spurs signed him. Might have been like a record fee for like a teenager at the time. I think he's retired now, and he's like not even 30.
I don't even know who he is. So that shows that he's a failed wonder kid.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You could argue Welbeck,
Oh, definitely.
but he was good for United for a bit.
Yeah.
But he just didn't. He wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What, Welbeck?
Yeah. So what are you talking about?
We were just
So
talking about failed wonder kids then.
We what?
I thought you were going to talk about the ESL.
Yeah, we will.
We will now.
We will. Let's talk about ESL. So, ESL. It's. I mean, we're a bit late to the. Let's have an ESL podcast here, but.
Well, it's about to have it now. Everyone's had a chance to calm down.
Yeah,
after all
that's
the bloody
true.
hype.
So go on, Dad. You reckon it's been blown out over the top a bit?
100%. Like, it's as if these 12 clubs have said, well, we're not going to play football anymore. We're going to play like tiddlywinks. Massive overreaction.
To be fair though, Sepp Blatter was talking about changing the rules of the game.
Sepp Blatter.
Yeah, he was like the he was like the head of the ESL. Like he was like the chairman.
No, not Sepp Blatter. He was the old FIFA guy, wasn't he?
Oh no, he was. Yeah,
No, he wasn't.
Florentino
Florentino
Perez.
Perez.
Yeah.
Florentino Perez. Sorry.
Yeah,
same
He was
guy.
saying about that 20-minute half.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
okay, I don't know about that, but that's not what everybody was complaining about it. It's as if like, it's just like, I mean, I'm not saying I wanted it to happen, or that it was a good thing, but the way everyone reacted was ridiculous. Don't you think?
Well,
I mean, they would have got used to it. Everyone would have got used to it, right? They would have, sure as eggs is eggs, if they would have started playing, the TV companies would have been signed up to it, the fans would have got on board.
I agree with that.
Okay, no relegation or promotion, okay. Not great, but it's at the end of the world.
Well, I think it is. That's out of everything to do with the Super League. The worst thing for me was the promotion, relegation. If you're one of the founding members, you can't go down. That's the worst thing.
That's bad.
That's
and
ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I do also agree with like the narrative that like it sort of spoils the competition aspect of football because
Well,
It does, but you would have like in America, like, everybody watches the NFL, everybody watches the baseball, everybody watches basketball, and they love it. And we watch it. They watch it around the world. We watch it. They don't have clubs going up and down. They just all play each other. Somebody wins every year. Great. Okay, so you'll end up having this European Super League, and I accept these 6 clubs decided themselves to go in it. Why should they decide? Why is they? I agree with that, but I think if it would have got established, people would have got on board. They would have watched it. Everybody else would have played. I mean, they're the teams that get into the Champions League every year anyway.
Do you not think it would have been like terrible for like English football though, in terms of like the format? Like think about how it kind of basically like makes the Premier League irrelevant in terms of like the top 4 race is such like a big part every season. But then if they're not really having to sort of compete for that, and also like it just lets them cherry pick the best players because obviously, like you said, I do think people would probably get on board with it, but like eventually, you're going to be, say for instance, you're Jack Grealish at Aston Villa, but you want to play, you'll see like everyone playing in the European Super League, and it's near impossible for Aston Villa to keep their best player then.
Yeah, and you said then, you made a good point, they do anyway. They do cherry pick the best players, but it's because they've earned it.
It's much harder.
It means,
it's much
it
harder
just
for
means,
now, though.
and you said like, when do all these teams never qualify for the Champions League anyway? But you can have that debate anyway, because United, Spurs, we're in and out of it. But they're the teams who finish in the top 6 now. What about in 20 years' time? It'll still be them, not because they've earned it, because of these rules now. It means that if Leicester, a good example. Leicester have done so well since they won the league
And at Wolves as
because
well.
they've stayed in it and they've started to rebuild again. It doesn't matter. That just doesn't matter. It just means that they will never ever be able to have that status
And well, unless they
change things in the future. But that will be done by the teams.
But there were those 5 promotion
yeah.
spots as well.
I know, but across the whole of Europe.
Yeah, but then
How can I know you're a Tottenham fan, but how
Yeah.
can Tottenham be guaranteed to play in Europe every year?
no, that's,
And Ajax can't.
I agree with that. To be fair,
And Feyenoord can't, and these are like.
I
big
agree with that. To be
European
fair, but I
clubs.
don't think it was based on. I don't think that like the top 6 was based on current quality of the team or status of the club. I think it was based on money, the richest
Money
teams,
Yeah, exactly.
and fan base. But if anything,
And the owners knowing each other.
exactly, and I don't think it's got anything really to do with who's got the best team right now or who's won the most trophies. Because if you go off that, then Everton are incredibly unlucky to not be included in that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was a good thing, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I just think it was a massive overreaction, and nothing's forever, It used to be the days before the Premiership and the Championship. You had Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, Division 4. You had 92 Football League clubs, and it wasn't until about 25 years ago that they changed it, that non-league teams got into the Football League. It used to be...
No way, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it used to be whoever finished bottom of the old Division 4, which is now League 2, they used to just they'd go to a meeting and they'd vote on them and they'd keep them in. And only occasionally would they get kicked out, like Accrington Stanley got kicked out years ago. But it used to be a closed shop, albeit 92 clubs. It used to be a closed shop, so teams like Leamington and stuff like that would never go up.
It's a difference. 92 teams being a closed shop.
One thing I do agree with you as well, Paolo, about is obviously when the Premier League was formed in was it 1992, 1991?
92.
There was 5 teams that broke away, which were Man United, Tottenham, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Everton.
Broke away for what?
They were the ones who formed the Premier League.
Oh,
Everybody else joined.
Yeah.
okay.
And then Sky were obviously on board with that because they sort of they got involved with the Premier League. Whereas with this, I think one of the motivations for the people on Sky to really hammer against the ESL was obviously because they've been cut out of this.
Their own
Yeah.
interests. Yeah, well, that's what it is. Everything comes to your own
Somebody would have
interest.
signed up.
Back in your own corner. The zone was meant to be the.
Somebody would have been.
It would have been like a streaming platform.
We would have watched it. I tell you, we would have watched
Yeah,
it.
of course we would have
And
watched
the
it.
football would have carried on. It would. R.I.P. football. Come on. You're having a joke.
Nah, no.
Of course it wasn't R.I.P. football. It would have just been different. It would have been different. You would have liked it. Well, I don't like VAR, but we've got that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pyramid system isn't the only reason why everybody loves football. Okay, the pyramid system would have been broken at the top. It still existed below, broken at the top. But it doesn't mean that everybody's going to start hating football. Football's no good anymore just because there's no pyramid system.
I do think the novelty would have worn off though.
Yeah, I
The
think
novelty
so.
of the ESL.
Yeah.
No, maybe, but
It's just it appeals to foreign fans who live in India or across the other side of the world because they love the big games.
Yeah.
Why do they support? Why do Indians support Man United or Real Madrid?
because they're big clubs.
Because they're big clubs and they want to watch them against big clubs.
Yeah.
And the TV rights are crucial for them to watch matches. Whereas like us here, it's very different for us because we've grown up with all levels of football all around us. We've played football, you've refereed lower standards of football, and then we're living in Coventry, we're a League 2 side, we're now in the Championship. It restricts Coventry, the dream, from ever becoming a European club again, like Leicester.
It won't stop them being a European club. It will stop them being in the ESL.
Right.
They can still get into what will effectively be the second tier of European football.
Should they be the Champions
You'll
League?
still have the Champions League or the Europa League or something that's merged the two together or something. There'll still be another European competition. Just like there is now, you've got the Champions League and you've got the Europa League. So, okay, you get the odd exception like Leicester, but ultimately those non-6 teams will only either ever be not in Europe or they'll be in the Europa League. And that would be the same in the future if the ESL would have been there. You'd have these 6 in the ESL, everybody else battling it out for the other European competition. We would have watched the ESL on TV. We would have watched the other European competition
Like we do
on
the
TV.
Europa League now.
Like we do the Europa
That is
League.
true.
Yes,
Do you think there would have been like 2 leagues that maybe had, if like more teams had like signed up? Do you think there would have maybe been like they would have maybe had like another league of teams?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was just different layers, you know. So I say again, I'm not saying I agree with it and I wanted it to happen, but I think it would have worked. The reaction they got was completely over the top. You've got VAR, which is killing football. You've got, you know, ticket prices, all the usual stuff we've been complaining about for ages, or the, you know, the fact that the players are getting paid astronomical amounts of money, and we're having to pay. You know, you and I are having to pay for it through TV subscriptions, etc., etc. Keep going up. You know, we've got much bigger problems in football, I think.
Yeah, I mean, also like these governing bodies that were obviously so against this, you know, they are so corrupt in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like there's obviously like they were like, this is like going to ruin football, this is terrible, and like again, obviously I'm like sort of fighting for the, you know, the standard that we have now, the normal format, but in regards to like, I just thought it was very contradictory of like FIFA and UEFA to be like insinuating.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you know, like for example, the Qatar 2022 World Cup. I've just written an article about it, and you know that's terrible.
They gave it to Russia and Qatar. I wonder why. Yeah. You know, money talks.
Yeah, but apparently the South Africa and the Brazil bids were
just as bad.
well.
Yeah,
We
it
just
doesn't
didn't know
surprise me.
because it was like.
Doesn't surprise me. But with it being Russia and
I really
Qatar,
didn't
it
know
was
that.
obvious. Qatar especially.
I read something ages ago that maybe the Germany 2006 one was some a
I've
bit
heard that as
dodgy.
well. I've heard that.
But it has to be, doesn't it? If you want other people to vote for you, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
It's like you're gonna have to incentive them in other ways than just the bid.
yeah, like you know, like the Qatar World Cup. So that their like main competitor was the USA. Like USA were obviously like favourites, especially considering, you know, like they were like way more like set up to host a tournament of that magnitude. Like Qatar had to build 8 stadiums.
It's a disgrace, man.
And obviously,
It is.
like,
I didn't know
it's 'cause
Qatar was a country until I remember you telling me it's in Qatar. I didn't know it was a country.
We're going to have it in the winter.
It's it's a disgrace. But like, I just think the main thing to take from all of this is that football fans are annoyed at the fact that the people making these decisions are so economically driven and politically driven, and that's good. A bit of that is good because, as I said, it makes football big. It makes it for everyone able to watch. It means that like clubs can have money to sign big players, and do you know what I mean? It makes football better. It means stadiums are better, etc., etc. But it's got to a point now where decisions are starting to be made that are going against the nature of what we've been brought up watching football.
Yeah.
Such as teams not being able to get relegated. You know, and I think it was actually just the way it all happened was just an absolute shambles from the club. They absolutely bottled it.
Yeah.
They just announced it. It got absolutely hammered by everyone, and then they were like, "Well, teams backed out. It's not finished." That's another thing we have to remember.
Yeah.
It's definitely not finished because Barcelona and Real Madrid have said like
they're broken, honest. They're like, they need it.
Yeah, exactly. But so do United, so do Liverpool, so do Arsenal, so do Tottenham. Chelsea and Man City don't. PSG don't.
I've read.
So these other clubs do.
You know that guy on Sky Sports News? He's like Sky Cava or something. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
He was the guy who was like, my sources tell me. Like, he was basically. He's definitely lying, but anyway, like.
Is he Spanish?
I don't think so, but anyway, like.
It's not Balaguer.
Nah, it's not Guillaume Balaguer. But like this Cava guy was saying that apparently, like all the teams signed up to it and they were all under the impression that it was like to develop a plan, not necessarily something that would be like rolled out straight away.
What, Super League?
They were sort of like missold. Teams like definitely Chelsea and Man City, but also kind of Tottenham, because it was the 3 American like led teams, Arsenal, Manchester United, and Liverpool. That
Yeah.
sort of led
Well, I
the
think-
charge.
I
And then
think
obviously
it's-
Daniel Levy being the, because as like the way Daniel Levy runs Tottenham, you would have seen that as like, revenue, guaranteed
Well,
revenue every year.
And to cement himself as a big club.
Yeah.
It's like-
As a Spurs fan, obviously, I was against it, but I was just very pleased that we were like
Yeah.
included.
Yeah,
Like,
but
it
that
just shows
makes
like how
sense.
much we've grown as a club.
Exactly, but like,
Yeah.
Or how much influence Daniel Levy has, more like, is more the question, isn't it?
it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
the
exactly.
risk of Tottenham ever falling again after building your massive £2 billion stadium. It just eliminates the risk. Same with Arsenal. Arsenal are falling and falling and falling and falling. It means that they won't fall anymore because they're guaranteed.
Yeah.
Whereas Chelsea, I think obviously the American clubs, United, is completely financially driven.
Yeah, they're just doing it for money.
They're just doing it for money. We know that.
They don't care whether we win it or not.
Exactly. But Man City and Chelsea, this is going ahead. They want to be two big clubs. They've got to do it for footballing reasons. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've got to be part of it to win it.
I feel like at one point, if so many teams were on board, especially like Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man United, teams like Tottenham, City, and Chelsea would have maybe been like, okay, if we don't get involved here, like we can maybe get left behind.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously PSG didn't go ahead with it originally, but apparently that's because, I don't actually know this for sure, but people who own PSG or have some sort of ownership in PSG also work for people who for like a TV company that have like bought the rights for the Champions League for like the next 10 years. So they'll basically be going against themselves. Do you get me?
Yeah.
They don't have the Super League rights, they have the Champions League rights.
Just want to explore what you said earlier, Colin, about had the ESL come about, whether those 6 English teams that were in it, whether they would have tried in the Premiership. Would they have been as competitive in the Premiership as they are now?
Well, I also think there's
What's
two
the
aspects to
incentive
look at
to
it.
qualifying for Europe goes
Exactly.
away?
Exactly.
That's something that's interesting. I'm not sure.
If you don't win it, what's the point?
Well, they still want to win it. They'd still want to win it, I guess. They'd still want to be Premiership champions.
But also, like, because they have been propped up with all this money as well, there's like, it's going to be one of those 6 teams every year.
That's
I
true.
mean, So like that just in a sense,
So
like you can look at it 2 ways. Like, are they really going to try and are they going to focus on the ESL and field a load of kids in the Premier League? Maybe, but then also maybe they're just going to have 2 squads of like elite players
Yeah, probably.
and just dominate the league and like
Yeah.
ruin the sense of
that
competition.
So you'd have like, it's Man United Liverpool in the ESL on Saturday, and it's Man United Liverpool in the,
In the Prem.
the top 2 ESL playing on Sunday and the top 2 Premiership playing each other on
Yeah,
Wednesday.
and which game matters.
Yeah,
they
you know,
don't care,
yeah.
they'll play the reserves in the league. Do you know what I mean? It just means that,
I
like,
don't know,
if you're in
I think they
4th,
still want to win it.
if you're in 4th and there's 10 games left
Mm.
and you're like 20 points behind,
You've got nothing to play for.
you've got absolutely nothing to play for.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that happens now already, because like, if you're like 11th with like 8 games left, well, maybe not 8, say like 6 games left, you've got nothing to play for
But
there.
that's always happened.
But that's always happened, yeah. So I'm not.
That's why they.
We
That's why they
shouldn't-
put the playoffs in.
Yeah,
To get
exactly.
more teams playing.
Exactly. So we shouldn't pretend that this is like new. But it just means it will be happening at a larger scale.
Yeah.
One thing I really didn't like about it as well is like it was almost like an elitist type thing. Like, say, obviously, like, football was originally like a working class game, and it should be for everyone. But if these games are played like across Europe, how is like the average football fan going to be able to travel and watch their team every week?
Oh, they won't, will they?
Exactly.
They'll just watch the home game.
It's hard now,
But can they travel
but
to
it
see
just makes it impossible.
the Champions League now? Can
Yeah, but they can go to meaningful league games.
Yeah,
You get me?
Yeah.
and also like that's a good point to be fair about the Champions League. But even so, it's not like with the ESL. They're guaranteed this every week, whereas with the Champions League, they might get a few group games, might not actually get through the group.
Well,
thing.
yeah, but
And there's much less games in the Champions League.
it's interesting because the Champions League on the same day released their new format,
Have
Yeah.
you seen it?
which
Which
I've
is-
made a few notes of it
yeah.
here.
It was
The Swiss model, it's going to come in, I think it was in 2024, 2025 season.
Yeah.
So it's 36 team league as opposed to 32 teams now. So there's an extra 4 teams. Each club plays 10 games, 5 home, 5 and away, but based on like do you know what it is already?
No,
Yeah, I've
Based
seen,
on like a
I've read
seeding
it.
system.
I read it.
So you'll get like a coefficient.
What,
and
like
you'll
like
play,
the Nations League is?
Yeah. So, well, no. Well, yeah, in a sense, but like you'll play. Yeah, no, like the Nations League,
it's
but
quite
it'll still
similar.
be one table.
It's quite similar to the ESL in a way. Like each team's guaranteed 10 games.
Yeah. So like Real Madrid will play PSG, and Young Boys will play Maccabi Tel Aviv.
That's all right. That's not
Yeah, and then the points be added up. So then basically what happens is the top 8 in the league after those 10 games go straight through to the automatically to the knockouts. Then the next 16 teams below will play a playoff. Whoever wins that playoff joins the other 8.
It is
And then there's 16 teams left, and then it's just the same.
But then there's also the thing of like four of the places in order to qualify. It gives like elite clubs that haven't actually performed well in their domestic leagues the opportunity to qualify.
So two of those 4 extra spaces are for underperforming bigger clubs.
Yeah.
One is for a club that's performed like well but hasn't quite made it, and then I don't know what the other one's for. But I don't know.
But could you get like the lower coefficient teams qualifying for the last 16?
Lower quad. Yeah, so because obviously if they're playing against worse teams, it means they've got a better chance of getting more points. Do you understand what I mean?
So they got.
But then say if like Man United did really bad, even though they were playing the top teams, and Young Boys did really well, they'd sort of even out in the middle somewhere, and then would probably play each other in a playoff, and then obviously you expect United to go on and win.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go have some dinner. I'll leave you guys carry on chatting. So good to.
Yeah, no, it's really nice to have
You
your input.
carry on, guys.
Thanks. Let me just go stick that in the bin as well.
Yeah.
So like from
Lost my phone.
it's legit. What time is it, bro?
7 o'clock.
Let me just double check this is still recording. Yeah, it's still recording. What are we talking about now? Let's carry on talking about this, because I just want to say, from a Man United fan perspective, it's very interesting because this has reignited massive like anger at the Glazers and the desire to get them out of the club.
Same, I mean, you carry on, but we'll
yeah.
very similar feel at Tottenham.
So obviously, for people who don't know, Man United in 2005, biggest club in the world, based on the success, fans, money, things like this.
I think in terms of like
one of them anyway.
As a global brand, I think Manchester United probably are still the biggest club in the world. Yeah,
but it's starting to be damaged. It's starting to get damaged. But basically, a family called the Glazer family, they're an American family, bought the club, but they didn't buy the club with their own money. They did something, I can't remember what it's called.
It's like borrow money or something.
So there's a thing where you can buy an asset, but you borrow the money.
Was it from like an investment bank or something?
Yes, you borrow the money and then the debt goes straight onto the asset you're buying. So they basically took out a loan, bought Man United with the loan, and then put the loan on the club, not themselves.
Yeah.
Do you get me?
Yeah.
Which is a disgrace. How that was ever allowed to happen is a disgrace. And basically, someone did some research and they reckon they've taken about £1 billion out of the club since then, which is a joke. £1 billion out of is a joke.
Yeah.
We still have the debt, and
yeah, you're still like £400 odd million of debt.
So and it's grown a little bit, I think.
Let
me just quickly finish. So basically, like, we got away with it because we used to have Sir Alex Ferguson, who was arguably the best manager ever. He sort of like allowed us to stay successful until when he retired in 2013. But then when he went, it sort of showed that there was, papering over the cracks. That we've actually stopped investing. The Glazers have stopped investing into the club as much as previous owners have done, and we've just slowly fallen. And we're starting to come back a bit now, but the difference is between United and, let's say, Man City, is Man City have owners with technically unlimited money, and they want to win. Our owners are very conservative with their money, and they just want to make money. They don't care about winning. So as a fan, all you care about is how well your club does.
Yeah.
It doesn't sit well with you, does it? So there's been protests. I went on Saturday to protest with my dad. But, you know, they've survived protests before. It's going to be very hard to get them out again.
Yeah, and
Talk about Tottenham.
I just want to circle back to what you're saying about Sir Alex Ferguson for a second. I mean, one of the things that was obviously like made Manchester United so successful, because like football's changed dramatically. You like in order to have success, you really do rely on like one of these like big money conglomerates to like sort of like run the show. As opposed to like back in the day when the Premier League was first formed. Manchester United were like. It was all based on like how much you're getting off gates and stuff. So, and obviously Manchester United had the big stadium. They were so well run in terms of like like the early days of the Premier League, because they thought the best thing to do now is to expand the ground, which was they were very ahead of their time in that sense.
Yeah.
And that's what allowed them to have the infrastructure.
The ground
have the
rapidly
money. Yeah,
got
exactly.
massive until about 2007. So the Glazers took over in 2005. I think it was in 2007 they put these two north quadrants up, which sort of, there's the big Sir Alex Ferguson stand, and then there's the Stretford end and the East stand. It sort of connected those, and that was the last thing that happened in 2007. Nothing has happened since. So you could say, oh, maybe the Glazers did that, but I'm sure that would have been put in place.
Yeah, I mean they didn't even like really start that really. That was
exactly.
That was the previous ownership.
Exactly.
But Sir Alex Ferguson, the last like team he managed that won the Premier League. If you look at that team, the fact he won the Premier League with that team is such an achievement in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a great team on paper.
Well, it was Van Persie who was world class.
Yeah, a lot of individual.
It was a great team on paper. It wasn't.
I think there were better teams around at the time. I think the Man City team were better at the time.
At the time.
Definitely.
Wow.
I even think Arsenal had
that's
a
when
better
they still had like Lescott.
They won the league the year before.
I know, but
if you look at that Manchester United,
we drew the league with them. We drew it with them. They just had a better goal, so they got to have the trophy. But we still had Vidic and Ferdinand, we had De Gea, we still had Everett.
But like they were aging.
Carrick.
They were aging at this
I know,
point.
but these are still top class footballers.
No, but I really don't think they were top class. I think it's, if anything, at that time, if anything, it's a testament to Sir Alex Ferguson, because he really, really did get the best out of them that year. Like, I really don't think, if anyone else was managing that team, I don't know if they would have won the league that year.
They were still world class, those players.
I think
they just weren't as good as they were.
I think Robin van Persie was world class. He bangs like 29 goals that year or something like that.
Scholes still was. Carrick still was.
Scholes wasn't well. I don't think he was world class by that point. You got to remember by this point.
He came out of retirement like 2 years earlier.
He was like 39.
And just lost it. He was still, Paul Scholes changed as a player and got better and better with age.
Paul Scholes was obviously a fantastic player,
but
I don't think he was the player he was by this point. But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying like he didn't deserve it. And what I'm saying is, it's amazing what Sir Alex Ferguson did with his team. He really got the best out of it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we had players like Welbeck with a very young De Gea, who the year before arguably lost us the league because of so many mistakes he made.
There was loads of. Am I correct in saying?
We had Anderson.
Like
cleverly.
Federico Makeda.
Yeah.
Was this the season where he scored that goal?
No, that was
2011.
That was 2007-8, I think, or it might have been 8-9.
Okay, maybe
it was a while back.
But anyway, yeah.
What a goal that was.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, you're right. He definitely, as we said, he papered over cracks. Before the Glazers came in, United set record after record in terms of the transfer market. Rooney, most expensive teenager. Ferdinand, most expensive defender. I think Keane was the most expensive Premier League transfer at the time.
Roy Keane was the first Premier League player to be on 50 grand a week. Really? Which is why I found it, hilarious.
Yeah, I think Gary Pallister was at the time one of the most expensive defenders, wasn't he?
But I found it hilarious that Roy Keane, was sort of digging into like all the big clubs, saying about money and stuff when he was the first Premier League player on 50 grand a week.
I know, and it's all just relative, isn't it?
But also, like,
as the sport grows, and as it reaches more people, and as more money gets pumped into the sport from things like the Super League, those wages are just going to go up and up and up.
I don't think the Super League was the way to do it, though. You know.
No, definitely.
I do think that it needs restructuring in some way, but one thing it's kind of like a side note, but one thing I think that really needs sorting is the international break. I hate it. Like,
I'm glad
it just ruins my week. Like, it just annoys me that I can't watch the football. What I think they should do is, and like, you know, maybe you might not agree with this. What I think they should do is they should do the season, without the international breaks, probably finish it in April, something like that. Then, for like a month or so.
It finishes May, doesn't it?
Yeah. Around like halfway through May. But what I think they should do is run the season, and then at the end just play international fixtures like the next month. Just do all the international fixtures, because then, you know, you can pick the England team based on who's played well throughout the whole season, and it gives I feel like it would generate a lot of interest in the national team.
Yeah.
Like a lot more interest.
Yeah,
You know,
actually, you're right.
A lot of fans they sort of hold the international break in a lot of like.
Especially
contempt,
mid-season.
Yeah, it ruins it. Like,
especially mid-season, and forget about international friendlies. Forget about them.
Exactly, like,
it's a disgrace. It's like, you know, if there's an international break and there'll be like 2 games which are qualifiers, 2 games which are friendlies. Why play them? There's so many games. There's so many games. You just don't need an international friendly.
Exactly.
You don't need them. No one cares. They don't try very hard, and it's just.
No one wants to get injured, you know.
Yeah,
the clubs are annoyed, like when their players come back injured and then they're having to nurse them back.
Especially like football's got to a point now where, like, if you want to win everything, so say if you're an English club and you want to win the league, the 2 domestic cups and the European Cup, you can't. You just can't.
Yeah.
You can't play in all of those tournaments.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a joke.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many games. I'm like, again, kudos to United for winning the treble in '99, but like, it's even harder now. It's just
like, you know, Tottenham this season, I think they've played the most games.
Really?
Out of, like, definitely everyone in the Premier League, maybe in Europe.
So Tottenham have got to.
So we had to play loads of qualifying rounds in the Europa League because because Arsenal won the FA Cup. And we played against Lokomotiv Plovdiv.
Who were Plovdiv? Hashtag who were Plovdiv.
And like, obviously we got to the League Cup final, but we'll get onto that in a bit. Unfortunately, the FA Cup quarter final, I think we got to.
Who knocked you out?
Who knocked us out?
Yeah. We know what you mean now. Well, it's like we last season. We got to the semi-final of the Europa League, semi-final of the FA Cup, semi-final of the League Cup.
Yeah.
So we played every single game you could possibly play, bar 3.
Yeah.
Bar 3 finals, and it's like, that's a joke. We had so many injuries, and it's, you know, obviously.
Exactly.
It's the clubs with the money and the squad depth, such as City, that can go on and do well.
Exactly, and the thing is as well, like, obviously we got to the quarter-final of the Europa League as well, and obviously got knocked out by who was it again?
Lokomotiv Moscow.
Nah, it was a Croatian team.
Dynamo Kiev.
Nah, they're Ukrainian. It's quite bad that I can't remember, to be honest. But
Dynamo Zagreb.
Yes, Zagreb. Yeah,
and then Arsenal got that next round.
Yeah. But anyway, obviously, yeah, we got to we played a lot of games.
Yeah.
Sure. But you know, people like Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, we apparently built this huge squad, but like we just didn't play so many players very often or utilise them. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, don't quote me on this because, you know, this might be wrong, but it's something within this region. But Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, by the end of January, I think, has played like 38 games in all competitions, which is obviously a domestic season.
Yeah.
You know, and like up to that point, he'd been one of our best players like in the team this season, and he has been one of the best players in the team this season. But he's definitely he had a dip in form on a couple of occasions, and I think it's down to fatigue.
It's quite a Mourinho thing though, to keep playing the same team.
Exactly.
He did it at United as well.
He signed all these traitors.
Really just quickly check my phone.
right?